Okay, guys, I want to thank everybody who's here. I want to thank everybody who's watching this on streaming for checking in today. This is a project, something we started a couple years ago, and it's one of the things that's near and dear to my heart. If you look at Radiance, and as we talked about what we want to do with Radiance, we're trying to build something that is sustainable and valuable and will persist for a long time. In order to do that, we have to build the breadth and depth of leadership to make sure this company can continue to grow and to continue to thrive. And so, based on my experience being in the military, you know, there's reading about leadership, there's taking leadership classes, but there's no substitute from hearing people who have been in leadership roles talk to you about their experiences and some of their little tricks and understanding of what being a practical leader is all about. So I've been trying to do these, and I know that Radiance, you guys have been facilitating this. We do bring in somebody from outside one time, and then we have one of our own leaders get up the next time and talk about leadership. So today we're blessed that we got Rita Hill to give us some insight of her leadership experience. Now, Rita has been with Radiance about maybe 6 years.
5.5 years.
And we're blessed to have Rita. I had struggled to find a leader in Dayton who had the breadth and depth of experience, the empathy, compassion, and the love of a workforce in order to build and nurture the workforce that was needed in Dayton. And then we got Rita. So Rita is literally the answer to prayers. And she has built a phenomenal workforce in Dayton, Ohio. We're over 300 people up there, I believe, now. Very, very high producing organization. And when I brought her in here, I made her a lot of promises, and I handed her about a 25 person outfit. And I said, and I'll go hide and you do something with this. And she has done a wonderful job. So everybody, please listen to Rita, and thank you, Rita, for coming to do this.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the opportunity. And just want to say good morning to our folks here in Huntsville, and good afternoon to those that are listening in Dayton and the Eastern Standard Time Zone. Bill, thank you for this opportunity. We're going to have fun today. We're going to talk about building winning teams, and not just building winning teams, but building winning teams that last. And as Bill said, I'm going to really just talk about my experiences. Now, I brought several books that I've read over the years and still reading to this day. I actually added another book to my my management library that Brian Johnson shared with me on Monday, and it's The Why. So I'll add that one. You know, that's something I'll be reading over the next few months as well. But you know, I want this to be interactive, so please feel free to interrupt, ask questions. I'm interested in you sharing your experiences when you're trying to build a winning team. So your team can be from whether it's a contract, a task order, you know, we're reorganizing as an organization or a company. So we're going to talk about what it takes to build that team. We're going to talk about it from a leadership perspective, from things that we should pay attention to, from the employees to having the ability to make course correction actions quickly, and the impacts if we don't do that. And so we'll get into it. So again, these are not in stone. These are just my experiences. So I'm going to talk about 6 steps to building winning teams that last. And so first, we're going to start with the who. We'll talk about defining values. We'll also talk about what I think is the most important aspect of building any team and being successful, and that's communication and engagement. We'll also talk about the responsibility of leadership when it comes to coaching, mentoring, and training, and then empowering our employees and giving them and trusting them to do their jobs. And then, you know, I guess one of the most important things that I like to do is celebrate success, and then I'll take some questions. So let's begin with how do we build a winning team? So I think we should begin with who rather than what. Who do you want on your team? I'm going to use a bus analogy. So it's very important that we get the right people on the bus. As you can see, you can enter, and then there's an exit, and there's several seats on the bus. And so as a leader, it's really important that you think about who you want on your team. And, who do you want on the bus? What kind of, not only their skill sets or their talents, but there's intangible things that as a manager and as a leader, most importantly, that I think you should look at when you're trying to build your team. So it's important to get the right people on the bus, and that includes their skill set, their personality. How do they feel about the direction that you're taking the bus in? And so I want us to think about that. It's just as important to get the right people on the bus, but it's, to me, even more important if you already got people on the bus that may not be on board with where you're taking the organization, or they're not on board with the destination. It's just as important to get the wrong people off the bus. So you, as a leader, you have to rid your team of the wrong people. And it's just as important because those people who are on board, those people who are coming to work every day, they're committed to the team, they're committed to the job, they're committed to our customers, and they're working very hard to get the job done. And then they see perhaps a fellow colleague who may not be pulling their weight. And as leaders and managers, don't raise your hand, but how many people have had to deal with the decision where they have to determine whether or not they need to get rid of a certain individual or employee? How long do you wait? How many chances do we give certain individuals who we know are wrong for the team? Do we give them a first chance, second chance, third chance? And I'm guilty as well. And over the years, I've learned that sometimes it can be just as detrimental to your team as a whole to keep the wrong people on the bus as opposed to moving forward with the right people. And believe me, the folks on the team, the people who are in there every day in the trenches working hard, they see this individual or those individuals. They see those folks slacking, and they're also looking at us as leaders and managers wondering, when are we going to do something about it? So please, as leaders and managers, don't be afraid to course correct. Make those hard decisions that will help you move your team forward. So not only do you have to get the right people on the bus, you got to make sure that you get the wrong people off, but sometimes you don't necessarily have to stop and tell them to exit, right? Sometimes it's a matter of understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your individuals, your team, your employees. Sometimes we just need to make a new seat assignment. Maybe we have them in the wrong job. Maybe we don't have them in the area where they can shine. So that's very important. We're going to talk about how important it is to engage with your employees, to communicate, so that you really understand who you have on your team. One of the other things, we don't want to kick someone off the team when all we had to do is to move them from point A to point B, and they can shine for us as a team. And then, when we're building our teams, we got to make sure we're hiring the right people, And we all do that every day as managers and as leaders. We're interviewing, we have a position that's open. We got to make sure we're hiring the right people. And as I stated earlier, it's not always about their technical skill or their experiences. As leaders, we have to have discernment. We got to do, get the background intel on it, as we call it. And we got to make sure we're hiring people that share the same passion that we have for the job, and also those who believe in the direction that you're headed in on the bus. And so, but it's not necessarily getting the same people with the same ideas. You want diversity of thinking. You don't want all the people on the bus that are trying to go to the same direction and they're telling you want diversity of thinking. As a leader, you want to make sure that you're making decisions and you've thought about various options. And the only way to do that is getting the right people with different ideas, diversity of thinking, that can help you be a more successful and more effective team. And so one of the things I want to leave with us here, when you know you need to make a people change, whether that's hiring, whether that's moving someone off the team, off the bus, or whether that is making a different seat assignment, act quickly. Don't delay it. All right? So next thing, defining our values. You know, we have to describe, once you get your team together, you got everyone on the bus and you're riding along, as a leader, as a team manager, you need to describe where your team is going. What's the game plan? Why does your team exist? Why do we do what we do? It's very important that we kind of lay out the roadmap for the team members, your employees that are on your team, so they understand what your expectations are, what our expectations are for them for being on board, and we're going in a certain direction. Because one of the things is if you get the right people on the team, when you start going in a certain direction, believe me, there's going to be times that we have to change courses, right? We got to change the direction. So if you don't have people on your team who are passionate about pretty much what your values are, what your mission is, if you go in a different direction, they may want to get off. But if you got the right people who are already on board with where you're headed, they are passionate about you as an individual and as a company and as a project, they're going to stay with you. And most importantly, you want those folks part of sitting down with you and giving inputs to what that game plan should be. So what does your team believe in? What do we value most? A lot of, and I'll say this term, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but I have 24-year-olds, I have a 20-year-old, and so, the millennials, So my children, my son, who just graduated from Ohio University, he's got his first job in the business area, and one of the things he told me, he says, I don't want to just sit behind a desk like you, Mom. I don't want that kind of job. I want to work for Google. I want to work for Amazon. I want to work, so they want to have purpose, right? They're not like when I got out of college, I was just glad to get a job, and I made sure, well, whatever job I'm blessed with, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to work hard. But, our generation now, they want purpose. They want to know that what they're doing means something, and they want to make sure that they feel like they're part of whatever it is, whatever direction you're taking the bus in. They want to make sure they're helping you in part of that. So it's very important that we give them clear direction on what we value most. What principles drive our business. So for Radiance, we're employee-owned, right? And so what we value most is taking care of our employees. The reason we're here is for our employees, employee ownership. That drives our business. That drives how we take care of our customers, right? We don't look at the bottom line a lot of times. We're looking at taking care of our customers, and we're looking at keeping our promises to them, and we're also going to make sure that when we do screw up and we do make mistakes, that we're going to do right by our customers. So that's what drives us as a company. We keep our promises, we take care of our employees, and part of taking care of our employees means that we can take care of our customers. So please make sure that as a leader and as a manager, when you're hiring people, when I first started, as Bill mentioned, building the Dayton site and the team, we had a contract, and one of the things I wanted to make sure of is that they understood and they bought into what Radiance believed in, employee ownership, taking pride in making sure that we take care of our customers. I wanted them to be excited about getting up, coming to work every day. I just didn't want them to come in and get a paycheck. And we know we all need paychecks, and when you're bringing in the younger generation, they're not so interested in the long-term 401ks, but they are interested in what's their purpose every day. What's the value they're bringing to the table. And a lot of them don't want to just sit behind a desk every day. So we got to get them involved and make sure that our principles that we're conveying to them drives the business, and they see the fruits of that quickly. And then we work together as a team to develop the plan, the strategy, and as I said before, make sure that we involve our team in the planning and the development and the strategy, and we'll talk about that as well. So our values drive our vision and our mission, how we take care of our customers. So any questions? I want this to be interactive, so I'll keep going, okay? So how do we develop our vision, our strategies, and our plans? And so, I took some of these things out of all of the books that you see up there, so feel free after the presentation to look at those. So this is just kind of what I gathered over the years and out of some of the books that I read. Leadership creates the vision, you know, a sensible, appealing picture of the future. Where are we going? Where is the leader? Where is the leader taking the bus? And then those visions turn into strategies. You use your team members to develop those strategies. That's, how is the vision going to be achieved? And then our vision. These are just some of the characteristics of what I think is an effective vision. It has to be imaginable. That young individual, other people who have goals, career goals, they need to imagine themselves being successful at Radiance. They need to imagine themselves having a career path. So that vision, it needs to be desirable. It needs to align with where each individual wants to go. It needs to be feasible, achievable, feasible. We can't just set a vision in place where, if Bill were to say, hey, this is the vision for Radiance, and all of us are looking at each other, we won't say anything, right? But we're wondering, is that feasible? Can we even attain that? So we need to make sure that our vision, whatever we give to our team, is something that's feasible, and it needs to be focused on what you're trying to achieve for that particular team. And also, it has to be flexible. We always have to do course correction. Nothing is going to be in stone as we're developing, these strategies, these visions. And then we have to be able to communicate it very easily to our workforce and to your team. And then as managers, those strategies turns into plans, those specific steps that you want to lay out along with your timelines. How is that implemented? How are those strategies implemented? And then, Jared, you will appreciate this. I put this in here for you and Paige. All of the vision, all of the strategies and the plans that we lay out, we all know there has to be a budget associated with that, right? We can provide us, a very aggressive plan and don't have the resources to implement it, then we've done our team and our employees a disservice. And so our plans must be able to be converted into financial projections and goals. And so without a vision, we all heard that, the people perish, and ultimately so does our company. Okay, so next let's talk about communication engagement. So I said earlier that this is probably one of the most important, in my opinion, aspects of leading a team, being a leader, being a manager, is engagement and communication, not only with our customers, but we got to engage with our employees. Build that relationship. We have to get to know the people that we work with every day. As a manager, as if you're a division manager, we just had a reorganization about 4 or 5 months ago. And we set up a number of new leaders within both sectors. And at the division manager level, you need to make sure that if you're in that leadership position, that one of the most important things you need to do is start to get to know who's on your team. Engage with your employees. Ask about their families. That's what people care about. If they know you care enough about them to ask them about a family member or a child, it goes a very long way. Understand the needs of your team. What's important to them? Are we providing them with what they need to do their jobs every day? That's all part of engagement and communicating. And be aware of any challenges and roadblocks. One of the things that I'm still working on and doing, but when I first took over as sector manager, I knew a lot about what was going on in Dayton because I've been there, right? I'm there every day. But I also inherited a little bit over 100 employees here in Huntsville supporting Ronnie and Heath. And so it was very important for me as a sector manager to get to know the employees that make up all of the national security sector. So I spent a lot of time those first few months talking to the division managers, talking to the operations managers, and I asked them, what are your challenges? What are the things you're worried about? What's keeping you up at night? What's keeping you from doing your job? And I learned a lot from those discussions. So those are all part of communicating and engaging with your employees. And one of the other things that I think takes time, you got to understand the strengths and weaknesses. One of the books over here is Strengths, Leadership. We have to lead by understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the team members, of our employees. That gets back to the first slide where we have a bus, right? And we don't always have to kick someone off the bus. Sometimes we need to change seats. Well, in order to be able to do that, we need to understand what certain individuals are good at and what certain things they're not good at, because we don't want to ask them as a leader to do something that perhaps that's just not what they do. They're not good at doing that. But if we ask them to move over to another position, they're going to shine. They're going to be successful. So as a manager and leader, understand, get to know what the strengths and weaknesses are of your team members. And then define clearly, as best you can, what their roles and responsibilities are. That's the first thing an employee is going to ask you is, well, I know I'm a division manager. This is the question I actually got in Dayton was, what is a division manager role? What does that mean? So I knew I got with Carl, Heath, Ronnie. We really need to lay out for our employees, those that are taking on leadership. And even if you have a team, if you're managing a task order, if you're a project lead, we need to make sure that we're defining clearly what those roles and responsibilities are that we're asking them to do. Provide the roadmap for success. It's more than just them doing their job every day, keeping the customer happy. Most employees, they measure their success on more than just making sure the customer's happy. They measure their success on how they're getting rewarded. They measure their success on their performance metrics. There's more intangible things that our employees are looking for when it comes to success. So we need to make sure that we put them on a roadmap by communicating, talking with them, understanding their needs so that they can be successful. And all of that, listen to what they have to say. The worst thing that I would want to hear is that as managers and leaders, we're not listening to our workforce. That can be detrimental to us. And so it's more than just us talking. It's more than us giving direction. It's more than us just showing them the roadmap and the vision and the plan. We have to listen to our employees because a lot of times they have a lot to provide for us as leaders and managers when we're trying to put the strategies into place, those visions. So it's really important that we listen to our workforce. And then provide constructive feedback. Ensure your team stays on track. Be proactive, not reactive. There was a time that we were constantly being reactive to things, whether you got a competitor trying to steal certain employees, someone's leaving, and, you don't understand why that employee's leaving. Well, as managers, we're all busy, we're head down. Schedule some time, a recurring meeting with your teammates or your employee. Be proactive with them. Don't wait until there's a problem. I'm guilty of that as well. And so, again, experiences. And a lot of times when we have an employee that says, I'm leaving, and we want to ask them, why are you leaving? Well, I wasn't happy. Well, we're going to give you this. We're going to offer you, and they'll say, well, why are you just now giving me that? So we have to be proactive in making sure that we're communicating, engaging, enable continuous improvement for our employees, and then say thank you. A lot of times, just a note card to write out, thank you for all the hard work that you've given goes a very long way. And I know that from experience when people just say, all I wanted was to be appreciated. So I think the communication and engagement is very important. So how many people are engaging with their employees every week? Don't raise your hand, but just think about it. When was the last time that you sent an email? When was the last time that, we asked our direct report, how are you doing? So think about that. Very important. So communication is the cornerstone to achieving a sustainable competitive advantage. One of the things that I think discriminates us, Radiance, when we're writing proposals, we just wrote a proposal, a very competitive proposal. We knew our competitors had teamed up against us. They had pretty much equal technical capability that we had, but one of the things that we wanted to put in our proposal is how we do business with the customer, how we take care of our employees. It's more, a lot of times, your customer is more interested in how you're keeping your promises, how you're taking care of your employees, how they're coming into a certain meeting with enthusiasm and passion. They want to work for the company. And so a lot of times, that's really what discriminates us as an employee-owned company, Radiance, So it's very important, communication, making sure our employees are happy, making sure that we're giving them, that successful roadmap, that they're feeling fulfilled in their jobs. Any questions? Okay? And then lead by example. How can we communicate? Well, if you want enthusiastic employees, you need to be enthusiastic. If you want employees that are dynamic, that are getting there, hitting the ground running, taking their employees as a leader, they need to see us doing that, right? So we communicate with our own actions. If we're passive, if we stay in our office, we don't get out, we don't talk to anyone, then we can't expect our employees to do that either. We can't expect our teammates to do that either. We can't expect them to get out and take care of our customers, right? So we have to lead by example, walk the talk, lead versus manage. Be that role model that our employees and your teammates, your team members are looking for. Leadership requires responsibility. That old saying, when much is given, much is required. And if you're going to be a leader in Radiance, there's responsibility that come with that. So what is that responsibility? Coaching, mentoring, and training. A lot of times, you may not get the perfect candidate that you're looking for when you put out a job rec and you do the interview. But if you can get that individual who has the positive attitude, they're passionate about their career, I always say I can work with them. I can coach them. I can mentor them. I can train them. And it does take time. But in the end, you're building a winning team that's going to last beyond a contract vehicle. It's going to last beyond, the next reorg. It's going to last beyond you get them getting on the bus and you decide, hey, we got to take a detour. And they don't like the detour and they want to get off. So if you can coach and mentor, cultivate, grow, hire the people that share the vision and passion. That's what it's all about. And then inspire your team. It's back to leading by example. Inspire the individuals that are working in your organization, that are working on your team. So it's not just you being a division manager or an operations manager or group manager or sector manager. Maybe you're leading a very important technical task. You're still a leader, okay? Maybe you're leading, a 400K task. That's the first one that we've had. It's a new customer for us. And it's very important that one or two person task, if you're leading that you're being an example to them. And as managers and leaders, we have to inspire our team to do work that they didn't think they couldn't do. Bill's good at that, I will tell you that. Bill's good at telling you, hey, we're going to do that. And you just sit there, you're like, I will give an example, Megastar IMD, never thought that we would be the prime on those two vehicles out of NASIC. And a lot of you probably are not familiar with those, but IMD is a contract that another large company has had for many, many, many years. And most of the industry base in, I would say, the country, and Cindy can probably attest to that, know that this particular large company has done that work for many years. So our customer, NASIC, decided that they did want different options. And so I will be honest with you, I wasn't sure about that one, Bill. But he inspired the leadership. He inspired me. He inspired others to believe that, yeah, we're going to go after this. And I had some of my other business partners calling, you guys think you're going to win that one? I said, yeah, we're going after it. We're going for it. And we won. And it set us up in a really good position now for another opportunity called Novastar that's coming out in NACI, because we're the only company that is the prime on pretty much all of the contract vehicles, IDIQs at NACIC as a prime. And so as a leader, it's really important to inspire those folks that are working with you, to help them understand and believe that they can do something they didn't think they could do. And in the end, it's part of growth. It's part of that coaching, that mentoring and training. Our jobs as leaders is to grow more leaders. It's irresponsible of us as a leader not to be cultivating and growing that next generation of leaders. We got to leave a trail of leaders behind us. Don't be intimidated. Don't be afraid. I have a lot of individuals on my team who are way smarter than I am. And I like that because no individual is smarter than the entire team. And so as a leader, as a manager, it's our job to grow and mentor other leaders and leave a trail of leaders behind us. Very important. And build the winning team you desire through developing, coaching that talent, providing those resources, Radiance University, providing the tools, the automation of the tools and things to help them do their jobs easier. That's how we cultivate and grow our next generation of leaders. And then let's empower and trust. We've got the right team on the bus. We've communicated, we've engaged with them. We've done some cultivating and growing, and then we've mentored and trained. And so now you got to empower and trust them to do the job. And a lot of times you want your team working with you, not always thinking they're working for you. There's some folks that say, well, I work for Rita. I was like, no, most of the time I'm working for you. We work with our team. Provide adequate resources, give them insight, let them know what's going on. Keeping knowledge and your secrets and things is not power. Let your team understand where you're headed. Give them the tools, give them the training, give them the mentoring so they're confident in the positions that they currently hold for us. And then build that trust. So how do you build the trust? Well, you may have to get out of the office. We may have to plan some offsites. You may have to say, hey, let's go to lunch. If you notice something's not going quite right with a certain employee, that's all part of in communication and engagement. Find out what's going on with them. Plan an offsite. Share the vision with them outside of the office. Sometimes we're so busy at work. If you take them out to lunch, they can relax. You can relax. They'll talk to you more. And you can really learn a lot outside of the four walls. I know with COVID that's been difficult, but we really do need to get back to engaging with our employees and then communicate as much as you can. Over-communicate. And then, this is a hard one, we got to step back and let them do their jobs. You've done the work. You got to step back and trust your employees to do the job that you've hired them to do. And, we got to allow for some mistakes because they're going to make them. We're going to make mistakes as leaders, but it helps us to grow. We learn from those. The best mistake you can make are the lessons that you learn from the mistakes. The worst mistake you can make is that you don't learn anything and you keep making the same mistake over. And so we don't want to do that, but we do want to allow some flexibility with our team, with our employees, to allow them to make mistakes and then build that trust, empower them to do their jobs. And then this is we're here, we won. Let's reward the hard work, The party bus, that's the best bus to be on, right? When my kids were small and they were growing up and we were having the birthday parties, I heard about this party bus thing. I'm like, what in the world is a party bus? Well, I rented one, and those things are fun, I'm telling you, okay? So we want to be on the party bus. We want to reward our employees. You want to reward your teammates for all the hard work that they have done. Celebrate with them, This is my motto. A team that celebrates together is the team that stays together. And so we want to do that. Say thank you often. Often. You don't always have to give them a bonus or, whatever. Sometimes it's that small thank you note that you mail to them. You write it out personally. You put it in the mail and you put a stamp on it. Don't send them an email. I love, social media is fine, but there is nothing like getting a personal note in the mail from someone, definitely from someone that's personal, that's close to you, but from your boss who recognizes that you've done an excellent job and you took the time to write a personal note, you put it in an envelope, you put a stamp on it, and you mailed it to their home. You didn't just throw it on their desk, and they may see it because they have to go, they're so busy doing other things, but they're at home, they're in their personal space at home, and they're hearing from you. Imagine how powerful that is. It's very powerful. So say thank you often. Provide positive feedback. It builds the morale, the motivation. Because I will tell you, employees have other options. They don't have to be here at Radiance. They have other options. But we want them to continue to choose to stay with us because we're building a winning team that's going to last for generations to come. And then have fun together. One of the things that, we do in Dayton, I say we work hard, but we play hard. We love to celebrate. So if you don't understand people, and then you don't understand business. And the bigger your dream, the more important your team. So we have to take the time to develop good leaders. We have to take the time to build a winning team. So in summary, determine the who. Who do you want on your team? They need to be passionate. They need to share your vision and your morals and your mission for why you're doing what you do. Communicate and engage often. Coach, mentor, and train them. Provide that strength-based leadership. Understand who your team members are, their strengths and their weaknesses. Put them in the right position that will help them shine, that will make them successful. They're going to stay with us a much longer time if we do that. And then empower and entrust them to do the job and leave room for mistakes. Because if we don't make mistakes, we don't learn much, We don't learn a lot. If we're winning every proposal, which we don't do, but a lot of times it's good for us to lose a major proposal because that means that's the wake-up call, right? We need to take a self-assessment of those lessons learned. Turn those mistakes into valuable lessons that we can learn that will put us back on the right path when we're driving the bus. And then celebrate success. Have fun, We need to learn to enjoy our employees sometimes because we spend a lot of time with each other. Sometimes we spend more time with our employees than we do with our spouses or our children. So we need to cultivate a positive work environment. Work hard, which we all do, but let's take the time to play hard as well. Questions? You're right, Jerry. So Jerry said that I left off that our Dayton site, our facility, we've been voted best place to work for 4 years in a row now. And we don't pay our employees to fill out those surveys. I don't pressure them. I pretty much just say, hey, it is what it is. But they have sent the message that Dayton is one of the best places to work. And, we like that, and we celebrate that. But it is a team effort. It's not Rita. It is the team. It's the people that are around me. It's the people who believe in what we're doing, and they go to work hard. They work hard for us to make sure we're successful. And so I'm actually grateful for that. But you're right. Thank you, Jerry. Any other questions?
Rita, what advice do you have for managers who are managing remote employees to keep the engagement high?
That's a great question, Jamie, especially in our COVID environment. And I've had to kind of learn and figure out. So we have a lot of great technology. I didn't really know what Zoom was, until last year, since COVID hit. But Teams, which we have Teams, but we also have other technology where we can set up virtual parties. Virtual. You got to get your ideas together. We still can communicate. There's Teams, there's Skype, there's other things like Zoom that we can utilize to really engage with our employees who are remote, who don't necessarily sit down the hallway from us. And over the last 12 months, we've all had to pretty much adjust the way we communicate and interact with each other. And so I will say even this, we're live streaming. And I hope that those that wanted to can tune into this from wherever they're sitting. They don't have to be in Huntsville, right? So there are ways that as leaders and managers, we spoke about this Monday in our executive meeting. We were challenged as leaders to engage in our customers, But we need to challenge ourselves that even if someone is not sitting with us in a certain location, we have technology. There's no excuse for us not to engage and make sure that we're checking on those employees and those team members who are in a different site. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Sure.
So, going back to your bus analogy.
Hold on, she's going to bring you the mic. We want to make sure folks on listening can hear you.
All right. So, going back to the bus analogy and who's on the bus.
Yes.
if someone isn't right for your bus, if you're driving that bus, what is the delineation between that person isn't right for any bus in the Radiance motor pool, or they just don't fit in the Radiance organization? Do you try to work with them to get them on a different bus first, or sometimes that's just not even an option either?
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Jake. So that's all part of understanding the strengths and weaknesses of individuals. And it's also part of, let's start from the beginning, when you hire those individuals. You know, when you're hiring, when you're interviewing, you need to make sure that those individuals or those candidates fit within, not only the technical position, but they fit into the intangibles, the culture, you know, the passion. Maybe your team works on Saturdays, you know, and you got a new task, and for the next 6 months, you already know that you're gonna be asking your team members to work for 4 to 6 hours every Saturday. Don't bring someone on who's a coach who has basketball games with the son every Saturday and can't be here. That individual, you know, may be great for the position, but that position, working on Saturday, is something that, you know, you can't get around because you have a deliverable. And so you have to work with them. You know, hopefully you can do it in the beginning when you hire, but maybe you inherited somebody, right? And you have a different perspective and the requirements have changed and you're realizing there's not a fit there. One, you gotta communicate. And then sometimes you just gotta be honest. You have to know as a leader that an individual just may not be the right fit for you. And so you have to make that corrective action quickly to make sure that, you know, they need to get off the bus. But maybe there's another position. There's several scenarios that you have open. And you read in the resume, oh, gosh, talking to this individual, well, he told me he has C++. You know, we have a position. Maybe you just need to put them in another position. So it's really on the leader, the manager, to make sure that you have all the facts, you know, in that particular situation. Hopefully you can hire the right person. You got them in there, they're doing the right thing, but we know that doesn't always happen. But then you need to engage, you need to figure out what's going on, peel the onion back, and then you have to make the right decision, the best decision for the team. And sometimes that decision is they need to get off the bus. Okay? Did I answer your question, Jake?
You did.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Rita. We have another question
Sure.
online. How can fellow team members help lead upwardly and aid in building a winning team?
Good question. So I think that gets back to when I assume that means how can they lead upwardly? So I would assume that means you may have an ops manager and, you know, there's a group manager and they want to lead upwardly. That's where we as leaders, we need to make sure that we include our teammates as part of those strategies and those visions. And it's also part of listening to them. You know, a lot of times our employees, our team members, they have some really good ideas. And so it's part of influencing. So if you're in a position or in an organization and you're not necessarily, you know, I will say the group manager, and you want to influence, you know, talk to them, communicate, give your ideas. And as leaders, we have to listen to make sure that perhaps they may be offering something that will be beneficial not only to your particular team, but also perhaps with the whole company. And I think that we have a really good opportunity to do that in communicating through, I will say, our HR department. I know Jenny Van Zant does that very well in Dayton. She, you know, people kind of go to her, and she puts her ideas out there. We listen to her, and she's been very instrumental in, I would say, providing a very good means of employee engagement across the company, not just in Dayton. So hopefully I answered your question, but.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions online. You mentioned books earlier. Are there any favorites you have that helped you grow as a leader?
Well, the number one book that helps me grow as a leader is my spiritual book, you know, and but there's a number of other books out here. I have 7 up here. The folks that are not in the room can't see those, but there's several books that I use that I have used throughout my career to help me along the way. There's not one book that I would say that is my favorite at this time. They have evolved and changed over the years. There's Strength in Leadership that's up here. There's Good to Great by Jim Collins. Leading Change, by John Potter. There's The Leadership Code. So there's a number of books that I have read over the years that have helped me. And then the SAIC Solution, I would say, has been probably one of the main books that I've used over the years because I worked at SAIC for 20 years. John Beister wrote that book. And that company went from an employee-owned company to a publicly traded company, and I saw the demise, in my opinion, of the company because of moving away from taking care of the employees to the bottom line. And so that's one of the books that I read. I actually picked that up a few months ago and read it again. There's a lot of books that I use, but those are the 7 that I brought today. I'm happy to share those with you. Brian, the book that we talked about in executive meeting Monday was The Why. Start with Why. That's a new one for me, so I'm excited about reading that book. Who's that one by? Sinek? Simon Sinek. Start with the Why. It's by Simon Sinek. So I'm excited about reading that book. It was one that our CEO recommended, so that'll be added to my library of books.
Do you have any advice on conducting an interview to get the correct person on the bus?
Yeah, I do. Number one, as a leader, you need to understand, first of all, what you're looking for. Understand what you're looking for. And then there are certain questions that you need to understand what questions to ask in order to get the information that you want to receive from that candidate. And there's ways to ask those questions. So first of all, you need to, number one, figure out what are you looking to get out of this candidate. And number two, you need to know what questions to ask and how to ask them. And there's also, I would say, an intangible. You have to be discerning. You have to understand, even when an answer is given to you, as a leader and a manager, and I would say most importantly as a leader, you need to probably pay more attention to what's not said as to what is said in an interview to ensure that you're getting, as best you can, all of the information from a candidate to make sure you're making the right choice. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, everyone. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot. I actually had to pull out some books and blow the dust off of them. I hadn't done this in a while, but I hope that I've shared some of the experiences that I've had over the years to building a team, and I hope it's definitely been beneficial to you. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for coming.